By the early 1960s, Everglades and Sequoia National Parks and Pipestone National Monument were all implementing on a small scale the reintroduction of fire. Research centers in the southeast, including the Tall Timbers Research Station in Florida, as well as universities in California, were evaluating long and short-term fire ecology. Attention was focusing on significant insights shared by visionary scientists and scholars, such as Edward E.V. Komarek, A. Starker Leopold, and Harold Biswell. As we now know, these emerging efforts would help shape a critical change in thinking regarding fire's role in the natural world. In 1962, the U.S. Secretary of the Interior charged a committee to look into wildlife management problems inside our country's national parks. This special group, named after its chair, Dr. Starker Leopold, son of Aldo Leopold, determined that our national parks should be managed as whole interdependent ecological systems, or ecosystems. Most importantly, the Leopold report argued for a new direction regarding the role of fire. Park managers began to recognize the benefits of fire's presence and the harmful consequences of its absence. Enlightened and encouraged by the Leopold Report, in 1968 the National Park Service changed its policy. The agency now recognized fire as an ecological process, and they accomplished approved management objectives. Naturally ignited fires were now allowed. Next, under the leadership of Park Superintendent John McLaughlin, neighboring Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks established a natural fire management zone. George Briggs and Dr. Bruce Kilgore took the lead in this important new effort. Briggs, formerly at Yosemite, was now the forester at Sequoia and Kings Canyon. Kilgore, a former graduate student of Starker Leopold, served as the two parks' research biologist. Kilgore and Briggs called it the Let Burn Zone. It included areas above 9,000 feet, except where fuels were continuous across the park boundary. Soon after, the National Park Service approved the first prescribed natural fire program, allowing lightning fires to burn under prescribed conditions. By 1971, 55 fires on National Park Service lands had been allowed to naturally burn themselves out. Only one of these fires had to be suppressed. By implementing this new fire program, the lands and ecosystems of Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks started to show beneficial and measurable results. Park Superintendent McLaughlin was confident that resource managers could now restore fire to its natural role in this country's national parks and wilderness areas in a way that would be acceptable to the public. That same year, the then Saguaro National Monument initiated its Natural Prescribed Fire program. The next year, Yosemite National Park launched its Natural Fire Management program. In the following years, Yosemite's young scholar and premier fire ecologist Jan van Wagtendonk, along with Robert Barbie, made this national park the model of fire management. Dr. van Wagtendonk's work helped establish the basis for today's continuing science-based fire planning efforts. By the mid-1970s, the National Park Service was engaging in much more than an experiment with natural and prescribed fire. Along with Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, most of the other major national parks, including Yellowstone, Yosemite, Saguaro, and Grand Teton, had established natural and prescribed fire programs. Meanwhile, over in the Forest Service, the momentum for using naturally ignited fire was launched by fire and wilderness managers in the northern Rocky Mountains. As early as 1969, a wilderness workshop was held in Missoula, Montana, that discussed allowing fire to take a more natural role in wilderness areas. The next year, a wilderness fire management study led to the establishment of the Whitecap Fire Management Area in the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness on the Bitterroot National Forest. Several visionary people helped this important major step in the evolution of managing naturally ignited fire occur. Bill Wharf, Regional Director for Recreation, Wilderness, and Lands, and Bud Moore, Regional Director for Fire Management, initiated the Whitecap idea. They then enlisted key support from Orville Daniels, Forest Supervisor on the Bitterroot National Forest. Next, fire researcher Bob Much and National Forest System employee Dave Aldrich helped see the Whitecap Fire Management Plan to its on-the-ground reality. Three years later, in 1975, the Gila Wilderness in New Mexico was the next Forest Service area to initiate a naturally ignited fire program. The Gila and Selway Bitterroot Natural Fire Management Systems would grow to become two premier examples of Forest Service natural fire programs. Also in 1975, the large lightning-started Waterfall Canyon fire in Grand Teton National Park was pouring smoke over Jackson, Wyoming. This smoke, that totally enshrouded the surrounding mountain vistas, sparked a strong, antagonistic public outcry. Some accused the park of having a scorched earth policy. Each day, whatever support that was once held for the policy of allowing natural fires to burn was quickly, going up in smoke. Residents perceived a cavalier attitude by Grand Teton National Park managers. From the vocal public's perspective, the National Park Service seemed content to let this fire burn itself out, no matter how badly it inconvenienced people. Here in Wyoming and elsewhere across the country, large segments of the general public either weren't understanding the scientific message behind the reason for these fires, or people just weren't trusting the natural fire message that they were receiving. Nonetheless, the program, on the ground, for the time being anyway, continued to proceed forward. Information and learning gained from these first naturally ignited fire experiments proved to be instrumental in changing fire policy within all of the federal wildland agencies. The term fire control was appropriately replaced by fire management. The Forest Service, long committed to fire suppression, now accepted the philosophy of fire management and the use of fire. In 1978, this country's historic firefighting agency, the U.S. Forest Service, even abandoned its traditional 10 a.m. suppression policy. The agency, for the first time, favored and preferred a new policy, one that importantly recognized all management responses to suppressing every fire.